Welcome to Talking with Sapna. Today we're talking about how to ask your children questions that actually get an answer. It's so funny because there's so many parents that I've spoken to who always say to me, why is it that my child never tells me how their day was? But then you come along and ask them the same question and they answer it. And it happened all the time. When I was a teacher with my friends' children, I could say, how was your day? And they'd actually answer it. But if their parents asked it, they wouldn't answer it. And the thing is, often it's about who answers it, but it's also the fact that we don't always ask open questions. And not just that we don't ask open questions, sometimes we ask questions that are too broad. And often what I've found with students is trying to get them to reflect on a whole day. Often it's like they've forgotten what's happened half the day. And it was something that we used to laugh about when I was teaching, because often we'd get parents tell us that, oh, our kids said they learnt nothing today. And here we are designing these amazing lessons and thinking they've had so much fun, and they apparently just don't remember it. And it's not that they didn't enjoy it. It's just that they're in the moment. They're not like us. They don't sit there just brooding on the past or thinking about the future. They actually are just enjoying every moment as it comes. So what I learned to do was ask different questions. As a teacher, one of the tactics I had was actually to do a reflection at the end of every day, to make sure that they remembered what some of the key things were that happened that I wanted them to really take note of, either to celebrate or to remind themselves of how well they'd done and where they needed to go next. And so instead of saying, okay, everyone, how was your day today? It was about saying, what was one interesting thing that you did today? What was one thing that made you feel happy? What was one thing that made you feel frustrated? What's something new that happened or something new you learned? And all of a sudden, because the questions shifted and we left them open but a little bit narrow, I started to get answers. And so as parents, I think sometimes that's your biggest shift that needs to come, is think about, am I asking the right question? Because when you ask the right question, your children answer. So think about what it is you actually want to know. Because often when you ask, how was your day? You're not really connecting to the conversation. It's a question you feel you have to ask because they've just come back from a day at school, or they've done a day of online learning or a day of kinder, whatever it is. But when you ask targeted, specific questions, all of a sudden what that says to your child is you're ready to listen. And as we spoke about connection in one of the other videos, it also shows them that you're ready to connect, that you want to connect and you want to really know what happened for them. So shift your questions. Ask them, what was something good that happened today? Was there anything that didn't go well? What was something new you learned? What was something interesting that happened? You can also ask them questions using emotions. Did something make you feel happy today? Did something make you feel sad today? Did you get frustrated? Or even use strengths? Did something make you curious today? Where do you think you might have persevered? So there's so many ways to ask questions that are meaningful and allow for that connection between you and your child. But also remember that sometimes after a day of online learning or a day of school, your children are just tired. So pick your moment. Often, as soon as they get in the car, you think that's a good time to ask a question. But we know what kids are like. Often you need to give them a snack first, take away some of that hangry feeling that most of our kids have after school, and then ask the question. Ask the questions at the dinner table where you're all sitting together and sharing about each of your days. And watch how the conversations start to shift. So remember, shift the question you're asking and think about when and where you're asking the question. Because when you start to take these factors into account, what you'll notice is you start to have deeper conversations with your children. They feel connected to you, you feel connected to them, and all of a sudden, you're no longer throwing your hands up in the air and going, why do my kids never want to tell me what their day was like? To going, oh, I feel like I really understand the day they've had, and they really understand that I want to know and I care. So if you really want your children to answer truthfully and honestly and in a way that connects them to you, then rethink the way you're asking the questions and watch how that shifts the conversations that you start having with your children.